Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise to get you informed fast. Today, we're looking at something kind of paradoxical in digital finance.
Right.
You've got these traditional systems like Visa, right? They can handle, orders of magnitude more transactions than even the big blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Seems a bit backward, doesn't it? Especially when we hear so much about decentralized tech.
It really does seem counterintuitive. But the key thing to grasp is that it's not really a failing of the blockchain itself. The bottleneck, well, it lies in these things called consensus protocols.
Ah, the consensus part.
Exactly. They're crucial, you know? They let all these different parties who don't trust each other agree on what's what on the ledger, security, preventing double spends, all that. But that security blanket, it comes with a cost, delays, limits on how many transactions can squeeze through per second, throughput, basically.
So security versus speed, that classic trade-off. Which brings us to, well, ways around it. Off-chain solutions.
Precisely. Off-chain protocols and payment channels. The idea is actually pretty elegant. You do most of your transactions off the main chain. Keep that main ledger for the big stuff, opening channels, closing them, or like stepping in if there's a fight.
Like an express lane for payments, only using the main highway for exits and entries.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. You're not waiting for that global agreement on every single tiny payment. It just massively boosts the potential throughput.
So looking big picture, these off-chain things aren't just nice-to-haves. They're kind of essential if this tech is going to scale up, right?
Absolutely essential. They're key to unlocking that promise of, truly instant, cheap digital payments for everyone.
Okay, so given that backdrop, the initial speed limits and the promise of going off-chain, what's our mission for you today? What are we digging into?
Right. So, our mission today is to trace how these off-chain ideas have evolved. We're going to uncover some, frankly, surprising problems found in protocols people thought were pretty solid. And then we'll introduce you to a newer approach, something called payment trees. Looks like it could be a really significant step forward, more efficient, and crucially, more secure.
Okay, let's dive in. So once people figured out these individual payment channels, the next challenge was stringing them together, yeah? Creating payment channel networks, or PCNs. So you could pay someone even if you didn't have a direct channel with them, but maybe through a friend of a friend.
Exactly, connecting the dots. And one of the first big techniques for doing that was something called hash time lock contracts, HTLCs.
HTLCs.
Right.
How did they work, basically?
Well, the clever bit is how they manage conditional payments across that chain of people. The payer locks up the funds. Then the final payee needs to reveal a secret. Technically, it's a pre-image of a hash, like a digital key to unlock and claim the coins. That secret then travels back down the path, allowing each intermediary to unlock their portion.
Okay, sounds neat. Solves the trust issue for paying through others.
Yeah.
But you mentioned problems earlier.
Ah, yes. While HTLCs solved one problem, they created another significant one, the collateral conundrum.
The collateral conundrum. That doesn't sound good. What's that about?
So collateral here is basically the cost of having your money tied up. It's the payment amount times the lock time, how long it's inaccessible. With HTLCs, the lock time for each person in the payment path gets longer the further down the path they are, linearly longer.
Okay. And the effect of that is?
The effect is that the total collateral tied up across the whole path blows up. It scales quadratically with the path length. Think a Wanduva for the technically minded. What that means for you is double the path length, and you need 4 times the collateral locked up across the network. It gets wildly inefficient really fast for longer payment routes.
Wow, okay, quadratic scaling is usually bad news. So this isn't just some theoretical maths problem, right? It has real consequences.
Oh, absolutely. Very real, very damaging consequences. It makes these networks super vulnerable to attacks. Things like grieving attacks or denial of service, DOS. An attacker could just start routing payments through a competitor's channels, but never actually complete them.
Just to tie up their money?
Exactly, just to lock up their competitors' coins. And we're not talking minutes. In the Lightning Network, for instance, this could mean tying up all of a channel's funds for potentially up to 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Imagine running a business on that. Your funds could just evaporate into lockup limbo because someone's being malicious.
Yeah.
That's a massive vulnerability.
It's a huge drag on liquidity and reliability. It fundamentally undermines the usability. And that's not all. HTLCs are also open to something called a wormhole attack. An attacker controlling 2 points in the path can basically cut out the intermediaries, preventing them from getting their fees. Also not great for network health.
Okay, so HTLCs, pioneering, but that quadratic collateral was a killer, a major scalability blocker. Needed fixing. Which, I guess, leads us to the next evolution. You mentioned sprites.
Right. So researchers came up with sprites specifically to tackle that collateral issue. And they did a pretty good job. Sprites managed to get the collateral down to constant for each individual party along the path, and only linear for the total path. Huge improvement over quadratic.
Constant and linear. That sounds much, much better. So problem solved.
Almost. Sprites achieved this efficiency boost by using smart contracts.
Ah, and the catch is.
The catch is that not all blockchains have powerful smart contracts like, say, Ethereum does. Bitcoin, for example, uses a simpler scripting system. So sprites were great, but they weren't compatible with Bitcoin, and its Lightning Network left a big gap for a solution that worked everywhere, especially on Bitcoin.
Gotcha. So the search continued. Efficiency without demanding smart contracts. Which brings us to AMCU, Atomic Multi-Channel Updates.
Exactly. AMCU was designed precisely to fill that gap. The goal was get that sprites-like constant collateral, but do it without needing smart contracts. Make it Bitcoin compatible.
And how did AMCU try to achieve that? What was the mechanism?
The core idea was this central enable transaction. The plan was get everyone on the payment path to sign off on this one transaction. Once signed, boom, it would atomically execute all the payment steps across all the channels involved. One shot, all done.
Elegant in theory, like a single master command for the whole payment chain.
Very elegant. But, sometimes in complex systems, the thing that's supposed to hold it all together
Becomes the single point of failure.
Exactly. That central enable transaction, while key to the design, also turned out to be AMCU's Achilles heel.
Okay, so this is where the channel closure attack comes in. This sounds like the crucial flaw. What went wrong?
The fundamental problem was about control. In the AMCU setup, no single person actually controlled all the different channel links in the payment path. This created an opening. Any two people sharing one of the channels in the middle of the path could, well, collude.
Collude how?
They could maliciously double spend one of the pieces of digital money, a UTXO, that was supposed to feed into that main enable transaction, or even an input to one of its parent transactions. If they did that, the enable transaction itself becomes invalid. It simply can't be put onto the main blockchain ledger.
So any two adjacent parties could effectively veto the entire payment for everyone else.
Pretty much, yeah. It halts the whole multi-hop payment dead in its tracks.
And what was the insight here? Why was this possible? Was something missing?
Yes, that was the critical finding. The AMCU protocol, as designed, left out a crucial step that existed in the more theoretical model it was based on, something called PCN plus round. This missing step was called the consolidation step. Think of it as each party formally finalizing their leg of the payment within their specific channel before the main enable transaction relied on it. That gap was the attack vector.
Okay, can you walk us through how an attacker would actually use this missing step to steal funds?
Sure. Let's imagine our attacker controls two adjacent parties in the path. Say, party pi and party I plus 1, pi plus 1. They share a channel between them. So everyone sets up the payment, the enable transaction is created and looks ready to go. Everyone behaves initially.
Okay.
Now, the first corrupted party, pi, does perform the consolidation step with the person before them, pi 1. So pi successfully receives the payment intended for them. Funds move correctly into their side of that channel.
Right. So far, so good for pi.
But then the second corrupted party, pi plus 1, deliberately refuses to cooperate with the next person in line, pi plus 2. They don't do the consolidation step on their outgoing channel.
Ah, okay, so the payment stops flowing forward at pi plus 1.
Exactly. And then comes the killer move. The two corrupted parties, pi and pi plus 1, together decide to close the channel they share between them.
They just close their link in the chain.
They close their link. Because that channel state was an input to the main enable transaction, closing it now makes the enable transaction impossible to ever confirm on the main blockchain. It's invalidated.
And because the enable transaction fails.
Because the enable transaction is blocked, the second corrupted party, pi plus 1, can now go back to the next party, pi plus 2, and trigger the refund mechanism. They use a lock transaction to essentially say, hey, the main payment failed, give me my money back.
So let me get this straight. Pi got paid by the person before them.
Yes.
Pi plus 1 didn't pay the person after them.
Correct.
And pi plus 1 got their initial money back from that next person using the refund.
That's precisely it. The net result, pi got the money, pi plus 1 didn't lose anything. In fact, they got their funds back from pi plus 2, but pi plus 2 is left empty-handed. The attacker, controlling pi and pi plus 1, has effectively stolen the payment amount from the honest downstream parties.
Wow. That's a critical flaw. Even if, as the LI mentioned, pulling this off costs the attacker something like maybe committing 7 transactions on chain.
Right, it's not entirely free. There are on-chain costs. But if the payment amount is large enough, the potential profit could absolutely make it rational for an attacker to do it. It breaks the atomicity, the all-or-nothing promise.
Okay, so recap. HTLCs, too expensive on collateral. AMCU tried to fix it for Bitcoin, but had this major channel closure vulnerability. The stage was definitely set for something better.
Exactly. Something that could give you that efficiency without smart contracts, but with robust security against these kinds of attacks.
Which brings us finally to payment trees.
Payment trees? Yes. This approach really represents a more sophisticated way of thinking about it. They manage to achieve performance that's competitive with sprites. Think good collateral efficiency, but crucially, they do it without needing smart contracts. That makes them a really strong contender, especially as a secure alternative to HTLCs for networks like Lightning.
Okay, competitive performance, no smart contracts needed. How do they actually work? You mentioned a transaction tree.
Yeah, the core idea is, instead of relying on long-lived channels in the same way, you construct a more complex, temporary structure, a tree of transactions just for this one specific payment. It acts kind of like a temporary, highly optimized virtual channel tailored for this single payment hop. They achieve the atomic update, the all-or-nothing property, through careful management of who signs what when, and this clever technique called invalidation by time lock.
Okay, transaction tree, invalidation by time lock. Sounds a bit complex. Can we break down how you build this tree and keep it secure? Maybe using that piggy bank analogy from the notes?
Let's try that. Okay, imagine you, Alice, want to pay Charlie through Bob. You all have existing channels, your regular piggy banks. First step is split. You and Bob each take a specific amount needed for this payment out of your main channel piggy banks and put them into new, temporary, smaller piggy banks. These are the funding UTXOs. They're earmarked just for this payment.
Okay, so specific funds set aside in temporary spots. Got it?
Then comes the merge. These temporary funding UTXOs from both your channel with Bob and Bob's channel with Charlie are effectively combined into one larger transaction output. This merged output holds the total amount the money going to Charlie, plus any fee for Bob. Initially, the control might still technically rest with the sender or be conditional.
Okay, funds are pooled. But what stops Bob, the intermediary, from misbehaving now? Like in the AMCU attack.
Time lock really kicks in, often through what are called punish transactions. Let's say Bob tries to be malicious. Maybe he tries to block the merge transaction from finalizing correctly or tries to double spend something. With payment trees, you, Alice, and Charlie have a backup plan. You have pre-signed punish transactions. These transactions have a slightly later time lock. They can only be used after a certain waiting period. But crucially, if Bob misbehaves and that time passes, these punished transactions allow you and Charlie to effectively reclaim your funds directly from Bob's side of the equation.
So if Bob tries to cheat, he risks losing his own money tied up in the process.
Exactly. He loses his collateral, potentially more. It creates a very strong economic incentive for Bob to just cooperate and let the payment go through smoothly. If he doesn't, he gets punished financially.
That sounds much more robust. Okay, incentive aligned. How does this stack up efficiency-wise against HTLCs and sprites? You mentioned the numbers looked good.
Right. Let's look at the performance metrics. For the collateral needed by any one person in the path, payment trees are OB along. That's logarithmic scaling. Now, log n is way, way better than the ON quadratic cost of HTLCs. It is slightly higher than the O1 constant cost of sprites. That's true.
Okay, logarithmic for individual. What about the total collateral across the whole path? That was the big killer for HTLCs.
That's the key win. The total collateral for payment trees is OBN. That's linear scaling. Linear is comparable to sprites, and it's a massive improvement, a whole factor of n lower than the ON of HTLCs. So if your path length doubles, total collateral only doubles, not quadruples. That's huge for scalability.
Linear total collateral, like sprites, but without needing the smart contracts. That sounds like hitting the sweet spot. What about transactions, if things go wrong?
If there is a dispute, an individual party might need to put O log n transactions on chain to sort things out. The total across the whole path would be ONN. So, yes, an individual might need slightly more on-chain action than with HTLCs or sprites in a worst-case dispute scenario. But the overall number of transactions needed across the entire path remains comparable. in that ON range.
Okay, so a slight trade-off on individual dispute cost, maybe, but massive gains on collateral and compatible with Bitcoin. What about the security overall, beyond just punishing bad actors?
Well, the lower collateral directly helps reduce the impact of those DOS or lockdown attacks we talked about. Less money tied up means less incentive and ability to grief. The way the split transactions work also helps prevent transaction sizes from ballooning if many payments are pending, which can be an issue elsewhere. And importantly, those wormhole attacks that plague HTLCs, they're much harder or impossible with payment trees because messing with the path requires changing the transaction tree structure itself, which the sender and receiver can detect and prevent.
And basic safety nets, like ensuring honest people don't just lose money.
Yes, two key properties are usually proven. Balanced security, meaning honest parties' total money doesn't decrease, except for the intended payment amount, of course, and liveness, which guarantees that every honest party will eventually get access to their funds, even if others misbehave or channels close unexpectedly.
Wow, okay, so putting it all together, this deep dive really shows how payment trees seem to thread the needle. They deliver that competitive performance, especially the linear total collateral, like sprites. But critically, they do it without needing those complex smart contracts. Yeah. That makes them really broadly applicable, doesn't it? Particularly for big existing networks like Bitcoin's Lightning Network.
It really does. It's a significant evolution, offering a path towards transactions that are not just fast and cheap, but also robustly secure, even on blockchains with simpler scripting capabilities. It's a very promising direction.
Absolutely. And it just underscores this constant innovation happening to make blockchains scale, doesn't it? This whole journey from HTLCs to payment trees shows such an intricate dance between security, efficiency, compatibility. So thinking ahead, and for you listening, given this ongoing evolution, what do you think might be the next unexpected trade-off or the next breakthrough innovation as we keep pushing towards truly global, instant, low-cost digital payments? Something to ponder.